This is Jenny Bell from Clarington, Ohio, and I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 2 feet for wiener.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour of the Barbecue Central show. We cover the most high-line, important, and pressing items of the barbecue and grilling day here every Tuesday evening, live between 9 and 11.
We'll do it live.
We are also recording for podcast videos are auto-archived as soon as the show ends every Tuesday night. You will get audio archives first hour on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. Second hour on Thursday. We'll talk about Friday here in just a second. Still to come on the show this evening, first-timer John Tesar of Knife Dallas. Brand new Knife Italian. Knife and Spoon out there in Florida. So looking forward to meeting and talking with him for the first time. And closing out the show, Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly. And as I say that out loud, I think to myself, might be a good idea to send Daniel the link that he probably needs in order to do the show. So we'll copy that. We'll go over to the email blower and fill this in. There we go. And he's off and running. Let me get back to my sheet here. By the way, the show originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. As I had mentioned, Facebook.com/@BBQ Central Show. No, Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show, and Facebook.com/@BBQ Central Show. There is, as always, a robust chat going on over at the YouTube page, and we also have a YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this. A real infrared burner grill is something you would add to the backyard, yes or no, and we're currently still at a deadlock of 50-50. Of course, that would be the deadlock, 50% saying yes, and 50% are saying no. So we'll see how that progresses through the rest of the second hour here. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, episode 325, taking you back to December 5th, 2017. No, that's not right. That was last week. Stand by. You're going to get a quick update. Let's go to the Dropbox, and we'll go into the finals folder where we will see episode 326. Wow. This one from April 29th of 2008, so only 2.5 months in to the live show's existence. Can anybody place this name? Bill Small. Anybody tell me where Bill Small's from, or who Bill Small is, or what his nickname was? I almost gave it away there. Well, if you don't, and I'm almost 100% sure that nobody knows the name Bill Small, especially with the group that's in the chat room right now, you will be introduced I don't think I had him on a round table at one point. What was that one? The pulled pork round table? I think it was pulled pork. It was him. It was the former official voice of the show, Captain Morgan, Jim Morgan. And I think Finney was on there as well. Chris Finney, the creator of the Finney method, which has grown into the reverse sear method. So you will be introduced to a guy by the name of Bill Small on Friday. And again, that dating back from late April 2008. You can subscribe to this show and the Best Moments show by visiting thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. You can only get replays audibly if you subscribe to the audio podcast, and that's the way you do it. And don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or segment again that's been lost in the archives, you can email John and let him know what you would like to hear, JON@thebbqcentralshow.com. I know a lot of you thought I was going to be talking about this, which was the Smoke on the Shores debacle from this past weekend. And no, I'm not going where you think I'm going on this. I shared a post of a judge at this event who posted pictures of turn-ins on the show page. I was told after the fact he was given clearance to do so because he was media. Okay, now I can be a bag and debate the rule because media can document the judging process as long as they don't impede the process. There's a subsequent rule that states that judges are not allowed to take photos. They're what?
Andrew, you are
Not allowed to take photos. They're not allowed to take photos during the judging process. So the ability to debate comes in this instance. This particular judge is a weatherman for a local network affiliate in Tennessee. So he is technical media for his job. However, he was acting as a certified barbecue judge at this event. So when you show up and your job is media, but you're showing up to do a CBJ event, do you then in turn give up your media credentials when you pick up your judging responsibilities, thereby making it illegal to take the pictures or not? That's the gray area that's up for debate. Again, he was told it was fine. I'm not here to debate that. I could, but I won't, so who cares? I'm also not going to talk about the scoring issue that happened at this event, the same issue that happened at Brian Jarvis's event a few months ago in Atlanta, where backyard teams and pro teams got mixed together when data was merged. I'm not going to mention that. And I'm certainly not going to mention that in an odd twist of coinkydink, the KCBS CEO, again, was on site at this contest. Now, he was probably checking out the location, getting the lay of the land because it's the same place that the KCBS World Championship is going to be. And once again, the CEO of KCBS leaves before the awards actually took place and then were ultimately canceled because the backyard and the jumbled up. At best, it's a bad optic again, but I'm not even going to mention that. I'm not going to do it. What I am going to talk about is this. Sunday, I get a phone call from No Names Please board member of the KCBS and says, hey, I just got a phone call from Jason Cole, organizer over at Smoking on the Shores, and he wanted me to give you a call because he's hearing a rumor down there that you're going to get on the show Tuesday and talk shit about Smoke on the Shores and how they used KCBS to sanction the event. We quickly wrapped up the session on the phone, No Names Please, and said, I don't operate like that. He knew that. He told Jason that. Look, I know Jason. He's been on the show a couple different times as a guest. I respect him. He's a former KCBS board member, obviously doing things well on the competition side of things. There's only one thing I want to know. I'm keenly interested in finding out what piece of shit person decided to get that rumor going on down there. I can tell you that aside from talking to my embedded correspondent that happened to be competing at that event, I talked to no one else about this. nor did I mention anything about it or post anything that I was going to get on this show tonight and talk shit about smoke on the shores. Why would I do that? I don't care who they have sanctioning the contest. Why wouldn't they want to have KCBS sanction their contest from a high level? They're the global leader in sanctioning barbecue competitions. It just so happens that right now, maybe a lot of people are questioning the ability to do that on a consistent basis. If the person who started the rumor is listening to this, be a man. Come on the show and let's talk about it. I will cancel any and all guests to make sure that I have a spot and enough time so we can hash this out together man to man. And if you see me on the street, make sure that you stop me and let me know. Because if I see you, I will fight you. One of my favorite rappers of all time, Ice Cube, said it best when he said, "A bitch is a bitch." Know this, if you're putting on a barbecue contest, if you're the organizer, I will never talk shit about you. You are doing what few people do. You're doing what fewer people do now more than ever, which is put on barbecue competitions. And by the way, everybody should be taking notes from Jason Cole. There were like 150 teams at that competition. That's unheard of anymore, 150 teams. So somehow, KCBS's scoring system has been able to screw up 3 of the biggest attended barbecue competitions in the last 6 months. The American Royal, Brian Jarvis's event in Atlanta, and Smoke on the Shores. That's a black eye. That's a shame. Because Jason did everything right. He found a way to get interest, to get teams down there, provide a winning environment for everything involved, to get that many teams down there and those quality teams down there. And then he's got to put up with that? No, I'm not going to get on this show and talk about why did Jason Cole do this. His expectation is correct. Judging should happen, results should happen without flaw. No fail. It doesn't happen right now. Not Jason's fault. Wouldn't have mattered if it was FBA, St. Louis Barbecue, CBA. I don't care. I'm not talking shit about anybody organizing a contest. I'm excited to talk to John Tesar here in just a second. Before we get to him, let's talk about Primo Grills. Next month, Nick Bauer is going to be on. We're going to be talking about the release of the Primo XXL. Yes! Malcolm mentioned it last 2 weeks ago when he was on the last time. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can get low and slow temperatures and high heat temperatures as well, all in one cooker. They're very fuel efficient, but achieving a 2-zone fire in most ceramic cookers isn't very realistic because they're round. Well, with Primo's oval design, now you can achieve the 2-zone fire that you're looking to set up. You can bank all the coals onto the left side, put your divider in, you have a complete void on the right side, you can figure out where you want to put your meat, you can even step it up and put deflector plates in if you want now. All the accessories that you want, only sold through dealers. Go to primogrill.com, find the dealer near you, visit the dealer, and then buy the oval that best fits your budgets and needs. And don't underbuy. We don't want any buyer's remorse here on this show or from Primo. So do the right thing, and if anything, buy up. Nobody's ever complained about buying up. primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well. We're back with John Tesar right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Hey, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker. Most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional. It's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. You visit pitbarrelcooker.com and then tell them the Barbecue Central show sent you. It will be a great achievement in addition to the backyard cookers that you might already have. My first guest in the second hour is someone who I have been efforting since back in early 2021, if you can believe it. When I ate at his restaurant in Dallas back then, it instantly rose to my favorite steak restaurant experience I have ever had in my life. And I have been trying to find a way back to Dallas ever since to try and get that experience again. He's been on TV shows and won some, written books, won Michelin stars, won James Beard Awards, and you might know his proclivity for dry aging beef. I am excited to welcome first-timer to the show, John Tesar. John, how are you, pal?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited, and I'm glad we can connect tonight.
I can't see you. Did something happen with your camera?
Yes.
Let's just cut it now.
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, and we'll reschedule.
We'll reschedule, and that way we can start fresh right from the top. But I want to make sure we have this good conversation and we're connected well.
No, for sure. I definitely want to have a solid conversation. I've been waiting to talk to you for months. So let's reschedule it. I'm sorry to the audience, and we'll be back as soon as you can have me on, Greg.
Appreciate it. Thanks, John. Signs that things might not go well. That.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Wouldn't you know it? Our pal Daniel Vaughn is in the green room, and we'll talk about some barbecue topics here. When we come back, this allows me to catch up a little bit anyway. If you're in the market for a premium offset barbecue pit, what do you want to be looking at? The Franklin Pit. So if you're not by a dealer near you, you can buy online. Go to franklinbbqpits.com. That's franklinbbqpits.com. Buy online. It's shipped right to the bottom of your driveway. Then you can go ahead and uncrate it and then wheel it where it will be living for the majority of its life, I would imagine. 600 pounds, I believe. Steve Ray over at Owl's Nest Barbecue, who happens to be a certified Franklin dealer, had a buddy of his, Flamin' Red or Big Red or whatever his name is, and he did a great talk-up, a walk-around, in-depth review of the grill. Never lit it, but did the whole walk-around in the showroom, let's call it, the virtual showroom. So if you're interested, go to Steve's Facebook page and you can watch that. In the meantime, know this. It's built with 5/16 and quarter-inch thick American-made steel. Anything that sees heat is engineered to be incredibly solid and should last at least a century or more if cared for properly. The thickness of that steel guarantees professional-grade heat retention, which is a critical component to making great barbecue. Every Franklin Pit is unique unto itself, which includes their own natural markings and its own badge number. How about that? You got one of however many. If you, the listener, want to own that Franklin barbecue pit, again, go to franklinbbqpit.com. If you're an owner of a barbecue supply store, you're looking to bring in a high-quality offset pit, and you want to become a certified Franklin dealer, go to the same website, franklinbbqpits.com, fill out the dealer form, and then get ready to get a call going with Matt. He'll get you set up as a dealer, and then you're off and running. And again, where I'm at, still kind of cold. It's like 32, 34 degrees here today. We had snow yesterday. It'll be 60 in a couple days, of course, because we're here in Cleveland and the lake is not frozen, so who knows what you're going to get. But in the meantime, you can get going on increasing the dealer network. That's what we're looking at here during the cold months as we bridge into grilling season, which is shortly upon us. franklinbbqpits.com. That's franklinbbqpits.com. Daniel Vaughn. After this, stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Whole packers. thighs, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Trouble Talking tonight, being brought to you by JRE Tobacco, makers of Aladino cigars, the classic, my favorite, the Corojo Reserva line. They also have a recently released Sumatra cigar. And if you follow my social media today on Instagram stories, they're releasing a brand new cigar that hopefully is coming this month for me. If you don't have a retailer that's currently carrying JRE Tobacco products, tell them shame on you. Now go to jretobacco.com and fill out the forms to become a retailer. They'll send a rep out to you, get you all set up. That's the great folks over at JRE Tobacco. Helping me close the show this evening is the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine, quarterly visitor here on this show, Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. We welcome back our pal Daniel Vaughn. DV, we're asking everybody a YouTube poll question of the week tonight, and it is this. A real infrared burner grill is something you would like to add to the backyard, yes or no?
No.
No. Well, you might have bridged back. No, you've added to a recently discrepant poll. It was sitting at 50-50 probably for the last 10 minutes, but is now 52% no. So let's say now 54% no with your no added in and 48% yes. Why no takes on the infrared burner grill for you?
I mean, really, it's just that a charcoal chimney is just too easy to light. That's really what it comes down to for me. Like I've got everything set up in my backyard to light charcoal chimney really quickly. I've got all the right starters and all that going on. So it takes no time at all really to get a good charcoal fire going. And I just love the flavor of that more.
We got a lot of different topics to talk about here this evening, and no need to rush through because while my favorite love crush was scheduled to be on ahead of you, unfortunately connections and cameras and technical snafus didn't work out, so we weren't able to have it, that being John Tesar. I remember that March day of 2021 like it was 17 minutes ago. An incredible steak dinner capped off by a dessert cheeseburger that I did not take the onions off of, and it was probably one of the best cheeseburgers I've ever had in my life. Now, certainly, when you look at a dining experience, there's other things that you have to take into account. The restaurant itself is very unique looking, has a great atmosphere, a great je ne sais quoi, as they say in France. But then it's also the company. So here I am outside of a show setting, sitting with Daniel Vaughn and your buddy that came along just in case I got caught up in traffic or plane delayed too much and wasn't able to make the reservation because you had to pay for the reservation in order to keep it. So he was the backstop, but he was a great guy, and we all had this great eating experience. So when you take into account, like in reviews, do you make it a point to ride solo only because you don't want to have a good buddy or two good buddies go along with you and cloud what might be some average barbecue, get stepped up a few notches because you're having some fun with your buds?
Yes, it is easier certainly to evaluate a restaurant when you're on your own than it is with company. But it's really not because I really let their opinions sway mine. It's really about the amount of attention I can really pay to the food, right? When you're in the midst of a conversation, you're not really picking up on all the details of all the different meats and all the different sides. You're more caught up in that conversation, right? And caught up in making sure everybody gets the pieces that they want to get. When I'm eating alone, I'm picking all the best bites for myself and really being able to evaluate it that way. So it's not so much about the other diners' opinion swaying mine. It's really more about just the attention I can pay to the food that's in front of me. And that's really the thing about being a food writer that I think most people don't really understand. It's really all about observation, right? It's about observation of what the setting looks like going into it, the smells, the sounds, the sights, all of those things before you even get to the food. So that observation then continues, obviously, when you get to the food in front of you, and that just is made more challenging by people around you.
What do you think the popularity here in 2024 is of dry aged meat, regardless of 28 days, 60 days, 90 days, 408, 150,000 days, whatever? I mean, you get pretty stretched out. What do you think it is compared to 4 or 5 years ago?
I mean, I think it's not so much about the popularity. I think it's about more of an expectation, right? If you are a certain level of steakhouse, then you are going to be providing that. Like, I don't think if you are a truly upscale steakhouse, you can't just have wet aged options, right? Dry aging is kind of a requirement these days. I mean, for me, and I'm reminded of it every time I go out to go to a place and order a steak that is a wet aged steak or something that I can get in the store. Like, I just simply prefer the way that I'm going to cook it better, right? And there's nothing they can do in a restaurant with that piece of beef that I can't do at home, and probably do it better just because I can pay attention to that one steak, right? And I can season it the way I want, I can serve it the way I want, all those things. But what I can't do at home is dry age, right? I mean, I don't have a dry age cabinet or anything like that to be able to do my own dry aging at home. So if I go to a steakhouse, that's what I want to try. I want to try that dry aging because from restaurant to restaurant, the dry aging itself changes, right? The different molds that they introduce into the dry aging room, the different humidity and temperature that they choose, sort of the funkiness level that they want of that dry aging. So each dry aging program is going to have its sort of individual flavor too. So, I think Adam Perry Lang and when he opened Carne Vino in Las Vegas a long while back, it's a long gone restaurant, but he was really the first to bring about dry aging in a major way, right? John Tesar learned a lot from his experience going to that restaurant. And then Adam Perry Lang then went and opened his own place in Los Angeles, which is also now closed, APL Steakhouse. And I say all that just because they dry age for the same amount of time, similar grades of meat, same cuts of meat, all those things, right? But the sort of air movement and the type of mold that Adam Perry Lang was using was much just more subtle, right? And the stuff that what Tesar prefers, which is that like really Parmesan, sometimes Swiss cheese, but it really just punches you, especially if you get meat near the bone. And so that individual character comes out, and that's just one of the ways that a steakhouse can set itself apart.
If I got you
is that a long enough answer?
Yes. If I got you a dry ager at home, would you be interested in dry aging at home?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would be interested in doing that.
I would not.
I mean, yeah.
No, I don't know how often. So in my head, I'm like, man, that would be great to have. And then I have to buy the hunks of meat to put in there. And then I got to wait 30, 60, 90, 120 days or whatever I'm going to do. So I don't like to wait. So if I want a dry aged steak, then I can go down to Fahrenheit downtown, or I can go to, somewhere that I know that's going to have, at least a 45-day dry aged steak to get some of that funk and get it that way. Because the other part that scares me is I'll get it in there, I'll get it dry aged, and then am I going to have it like every night for a week or every night for a month, or how much meat am I putting in there? So am I not going to eat it? So it's both things for me. Like, I don't want to wait, and then I don't want to also overshoot. So I'd rather just not do it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, whole muscles, like, whole big pieces are the best thing to dry age. So that whole rib section, but when you cut into it, like, it's time to cook it all, right? So yeah, you got to be cooking for a crowd. But I think I would have a little fun playing around with different proteins, things like that. I was in San Diego recently, at Cali Restaurant. And they were doing Callie, and they were serving a dry aged duck breast, and it was just incredible. So I would like to try some different proteins and see just what dry aging has an effect on them.
Beginning of the year, John Brotherton passes away, and you weren't slated to be on the show until now. And as somebody who was covering the Texas barbecue scene, I'm sure you've had more than a few run-ins, conversations, and good time spent with John. So for the folks that are familiar with him, maybe you could give us a quick background on him and then what the loss means to the community.
Yeah, John Brotherton was a sort of serial entrepreneur. He wasn't going to quit until he got the right barbecue joint. He had a food truck. He had a partnership in a restaurant that ended up going under in Round Rock, just north of Austin. And then he finally got his hooks into Black Iron, which turned into Brotherton's Black Iron Barbecue. And at the time, it was a sandwich shop. And he was really just doing pop-ups out of there. And then the owner and he decided they should really collaborate on sandwiches using John's smoked meat. Those became so popular that eventually it just became a barbecue place. It just became Brotherton's Black Iron Barbecue. They expanded the space. They took over the space next door. It was just growing in popularity. It was getting better and better every year. It made our Texas Monthly Top 50 in 2021, which is the most recent one we did. And, obviously his death is incredibly sad. For me, one of the sadder parts is as somebody who's witnessed his career and his growth in his barbecue career. He was really just hitting his stride as far as what he was able to do, and what his staff was doing, and really what he was going to contribute to his own restaurant. Now, what he contributed to the greater barbecue community, that had been going on for years and years. It was really just that consummate guy you could call up if you needed help as a restaurateur trying to work through any sort of problems, whether it's cooking, financial, marketing, sausage making, all these things. Like, you could just call John and he might not have the answer, but he could talk you through it if he did, and he'd find you somebody who might be able to help you if he didn't. So, and he did that for everybody. And it's just, it's tough to find people like that these days. There's a lot of work, a lot of attention that goes into running a barbecue joint that, creates reasons for people to not be able to do that. Right. But he never used that as an excuse. He was just always there to help. And he was always a huge cheerleader for the barbecue industry as well, for just all of the barbecue joints out there. We've done our top 50 list for many years now. And he was one of those guys who I knew he was going to go to all 50 of them. And this is, dating back to the 2008 list, I think, 2008, 2013, 2017. He was going to go to all of them, and he was going to give me his honest feedback. And for the most part, I agreed with him. When he would come back, it's like, yeah, well, John, that was kind of the 49th and 50th places to make it in. So your assessment kind of makes sense here. So, and I knew it was a huge goal of his to make the top 50 because he told me that. He told me how important it was to him. And that certainly didn't sway my evaluation of his restaurant, but I do remember the day quite distinctly because we were getting down toward the end. And when we're getting down toward the end of the list of trying to finalize that list, I am going all over the state, and most people think that I'm trying to nail down our top 10. So if I visit you at that time, almost everyone assumes that that's what they're in contention for, but I'm actually doing two things at the same time. I'm trying to finalize our top 10 and finalize that ranking from 1 to 10. And I'm also trying to finalize in that those places that are 45 to 55, which of those 10 or so are going to make it into the top, which of the 5 of those 10 are going to make it into the top 50. And that's what I was doing on that day. And I stopped at Brotherton's first. He was there. He was nervous. but he didn't try and take over the block or anything. He let his cutter, who was Jason Tedford at the time, he let his cutter do the work, serve me the food. It was great. He asked me how everything was, and I told him honestly how much I enjoyed it. And as I left, he just said, "I hope everybody else sucks today." Wow. And I knew exactly what he meant, because he knew that I was in the Austin area, making these sort of final cuts and final decisions, and he made the cut.
When you talk about how open he was to helping anybody, is he the exception when you look at a lot of the other operators around barbecue restaurants in Texas, or is that more the norm?
I would say he's the exception in the doing part, right? There are more people who are willing to share the way that they cook and share tips and things like that than there are not, right? That is the majority of barbecue joint owners out there. But as far as somebody who's going to like hop in the truck and drive to your place and help you work through a certain issue that you're having with your pit, or or show up at an event to help you out, even if he's not, one of the invitees to the event. I remember cooking with him for it was a barbecue town hall at Texas A&M, and he was there cooking for all the people who were there in attendance, and there was going to be 100 or so people there who were really just all from the barbecue community, and he had volunteered to cook for it. Well, he had volunteered to cook fajita because that was something he could show up in the morning and do pretty quickly. And for some reason or another, I had like a midsection of a hog in my fridge that really needed cooked. And it was like full, like from belly up to the ribs, up to the loin. And I was like, "Hey John, you think maybe we could cook this that morning?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's gonna like start my day at about 4 a.m. instead of about 9 a.m." And we agreed to meet and get the fire going and get the thing on. And of course, when I showed up, he already had the fire going. The pit was already ready, and we threw it on, and we really had a good time talking. That's when he shared with me just how much it meant to be for him to be in the top 50. And it was just good to be able to spend some of those one-on-one moments with him.
So I appreciate the stories and the look in on John for the folks that know him, and huge loss that he's gone. A lot of folks in the instant chat echoing the same type of sentiments. As we're talking about this list, recently you had the, who's hot, new 25. I'm not calling it the right thing, but you know what I mean. The guy we've talked about on the show before, who was also the focus of my documentary last year, Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue. A confusing story that we hashed out last week finally. But as someone who covers Texas and sees places come and go, how common is it to see folks fall into the trap that Joe seemingly falls into, which is having a menu that seemingly wants to be all things to all people?
That happens a lot, and that's the thing about when you're starting a business, especially when you're trying to serve out of a food truck, you don't have a big staff to help you. You got to keep it simple, right? You've got to keep it as simple as you can, keep it as focused as you can, because that way you don't have to guess, right? Barbecue is a guessing game, and somebody's going to lose. Are the customers going to lose because you sold out, or are you going to lose because you got a lot of food left? And that's hard enough to determine when you're serving brisket, ribs, sausage, but when you're serving 8 different things and you've got to determine how much of each one of those to cook every day, just becomes much more complicated. Not to mention just the effort in all the work to prepare all those different things. So trying to, being able to keep it focused and, is a challenge to some people because they really want to show off what they can do. And, I hear it so often, like, well, I'm in it for the passion and I want to show off what I can do. And I want to, I want to impress people and all that. And it's like, well, in the end, you've got to be in it to make money. And if that's not a goal of yours, then you're not going to last.
Joe mentions that in the food truck, and you kind of mentioned it a couple seconds ago, the problem is magnified because lack of overall space. And if it would have been in a traditional restaurant space, it would have been more manageable because increase space for things like food holders and the like. Reality or little pie in the sky in that thought?
Well, room more specifically for staff, right? The people who can come in there and help you produce all this stuff. I look at Leroy and Lewis. They had a food truck, or still have a food truck now, but they ran a food truck for 7 years, all with the hopes of opening a brick and mortar. And they had to keep their menu tight for 7 years. They couldn't really branch out and do all of the things that they wanted to. They could do it in specials here and there, but as far as having the full menu the way they wanted it, they couldn't. They were operating out of a food truck. They just opened a month ago in a new brick and mortar location. Their menu it's pretty massive, right? They've already told me in an interview, like, they wanted to put it out as a really big menu and see where they needed to pare back, as they got into it, several weeks in or several months in, figure out what wasn't selling. But they wanted to start out big. They wanted to show off what they could do, and they finally had room for the staff to be able to produce all that and to hold all of that and to be able to produce it all really, really well. So, that took 7 years of patience, and then finally getting that brick and mortar, building up a name and a reputation that people, enough people were going to show up to that new brick and mortar restaurant that they could do that huge variety of stuff. So that took a lot of time to build that foundation.
Is Joe unique in the fact that he had a very substantial YouTube following built up prior to him getting into the food truck business? As you look across all the other operators in the state, are there a number of big places that have a similar video footprint, or is Joe the exception to that rule?
Joe's certainly the exception as far as somebody who started out with the YouTube platform and that popularity, and then moved into opening up his own place. It almost always happens the other way around, right? Once you get a restaurant, you get popular, you get successful, then people want to know how you're doing it. And then you can maybe set up a Patreon or set up some way of getting your videos out there and, finding an audience who wants to watch them. But rarely does it happen the way that, in the order that Joe did it.
You had mentioned one place beginning of the interview, but how's barbecue in San Diego these days otherwise?
Barbecue in San Diego, I found some impressive places. Popolo Barbecue was really the one that I like the most. I'm really out there more on a search for Texas style barbecue, and they describe themselves as a Sonoran style barbecue, but they did come and learn from Leroy and Lewis. They have a similar adherence to using all wood to smoke everything and to make things with care, to make to be a little more creative with things. Another one that I really liked in town was Coop's West Texas Barbecue. It was just a kind of a throwback place, right? It was an old school Texas barbecue, and sadly they announced that they're closing, and they, I think, only have this weekend. They're going to be serving through this weekend, and then they'll be closing. And then up north, went to Heritage Barbecue up in Oceanside, their newer location, Heritage Brewery. There's a full brewery within the restaurant, also really impressive. So, and I'm headed out on another trip at the end of this week. So, if you want me to break a little news,
where we go
on the show.
All right,
Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country, nay, the globe. And we go down to Texas, where our pal Daniel Vaughn is getting ready to break news.
Well, every 4 years, Texas Monthly, we do our Texas Monthly Top 50. So the Top 50 barbecue list, and then, as you mentioned, in 2 years in between, we do our 25 best new barbecue joint list. Well, this year in 2024, we decided maybe to do something a little bit different. I've been asked a lot about different barbecue joints that are doing Texas style barbecue outside the state, my opinions about them. I get requests to go visit a lot of these places. And I was really hamstrung. Most of my coverage was about the barbecue joints in Texas, and that's what Texas Monthly was really willing to fund, right? Was that sort of travel. And I had a discussion with my editor and with the people who hold the purse strings and said, well, what if I set out and went all over the country in 2023 and 2024 and put together a top 50, probably a top barbecue list of Texas style barbecue in the lower 48 that's not in Texas. And so I've done pretty much everything up and down the eastern, the Atlantic coast. I've done quite a bit in the middle of the country, working my way through the West Coast as well. Got some stuff to do up in the Rocky Mountains. I've still got several trips ahead of me, but sometime in late summer, we'll be putting out a list of the 50, probably the 50 best, I think seems about right, given how 50 plays into so many of our other barbecue lists. But the United States of Texas barbecue.
Gotta ask, yes or no, any Ohio barbecue restaurants making the list?
I don't have any Ohio barbecue joints on the list right now, but I will be making a trip there in June. I'll be letting you know when I'm up that way. But one of the things when I talked to my editors about this, one of the questions came up like, well, what is Texas style? And I said, well, and I often use Mabel's as an example. Like, all right, we have Mabel's Barbecue in Cleveland, a place that I really enjoy, and that certainly has a lot of DNA from Texas, but Michael Simon, as much as I love him, he's adamant it's Cleveland style barbecue. That is not Texas style barbecue. It's what he's doing. So if you're not flying that Texas flag, then it's not Texas style barbecue, right? If you
so he precludes himself from being on the list because he's adamant about not being Texas style.
That's right. Oh. Yeah. Same with Popolo barbecue, right? They're Sonoran style barbecue. They're not Texas style barbecue by their own description. And so if your own description is saying that you're not Texas style barbecue, then I can't really make that determination. I can't certainly reverse that on my own.
So are you running through the whole state of Ohio? Or are you coming up to Cleveland and hoping that the Gen metro area of Cleveland's got Texas style barbecue? Because I think you're going to be disappointed.
Well, no, I'm not going all over the state. I had several disappointments in the Cincinnati area last summer. I've got a spot in Columbus to check out, and I do have another one up in Cleveland. But the thing is, like, about this list, the research for the top 50 barbecue list in Texas, we cast a much wider net. There's places that look, barely hopeful that still make it on our list to try. This list, I am certainly being much more careful, much more stingy about the number of places I'm visiting. And, those photos that customers are uploading, those photos that the restaurants themselves are uploading to Facebook, photos on Yelp, all of these things are helping to cull this list, right? If it looks that bad in 5 different photos, then it probably doesn't have much hope of making this list. So I'm being a little bit more picky about the spots that I choose, but I don't think I'll go to all 50 states on this trek. I mean, I don't think so. Gosh, that'd be a good thing to look into. I just might. But I'm going to dang near all of them.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, as you know, you should be letting me know when you get in June so we can hit up whatever around here, maybe make a out of barbecue experience as well. If you're going to be around town, happy to run down to Larder and some of the other places that are pretty cool outside of barbecue. So this is Daniel Vaughn. You can find him at tmbbq.com. He's the barbecue editor over there, and he's a quarterly visitor here on this show. Danny, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in 3 months.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
Daniel Vaughn right there. doing a bang-up job as always. And that's going to be it. No, it's not. It is not going to be it. Just wait a minute. Where am I? Let's use this one. Yeah. We have to tell you about Big Papa Smokers because there's some free money in it for you. We don't want to forget about that. Our gang, or our friends at Big Papa Smokers have something special just for you. The listeners of the show, whether you're a seasoned pitmaster or a grilling newbie, Big Papa Smokers, your one-stop shop for all things barbecue, from their championship rubs, mouth-watering sauces, essential accessories. They've got what you need to take your food to the next level, whether you're a competition cook or you're just a backyard person like me. Here's the cherry on top. Big Papa Smokers is offering the listeners of the Barbecue Central Show an exclusive deal. Use code REMPE at checkout. That's REMPE. And you get $10 off your next $50 purchase of rubs, sauces, and accessories. So imagine the possibility. You can use sweet money and put it on your pork. You can put Big Papa's Desert Gold on your chicken and taste and see what you think. Or better yet, pick up Double Secret Steak Rub and put it on your steak. Head on over to BigPapaSmokers.com right now and start shopping today and start saving today. And don't forget to use the promo code REMPE, R-E-M-P-E, at checkout to claim your $10 off your next order of $50 or more. Also, don't forget to check out the full line of recipes at cookingwithbigpapa.com. And, of course, follow them on social media for amazing recipes. And now we are back to wrap the show, so stick around. We'll be right back. You know what? We're just going to wrap the show. Because all the way back in the first hour, we had Steven Reichland for the first time in many months, recapping his Abu Dhabi. And then, because he was caught and stuck, no, Wes Wright. But in lieu of that, you got a great behind-the-scenes look at the Barbecue Central Show studio. And where the guest sits and the green screen, that's not a green screen. Got to take a look at all the knickknacks and tchotchkes and how the show operates. And again, it's just me. There's not a team of others. It's just me. So I had to get it all set up the way I could run it and still sound professional and produce professional. Second hour, almost had my first conversation with John Tesar, but we missed it. So we're going to try and get that lined up ASAP, and then closing out the show in an extended fashion, our pal Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor. An exclusive announcement, he is releasing a top 50 Texas-style barbecue restaurant list outside of Texas, if that makes sense. Coming through Cleveland in June. I'll be here. Maybe we'll go to Johnny's Little Bar for a burger, and then we'll go West 130th for Glizzy's Schween Dog. Then we'll go get barbecue. Then we'll finish at Larder for charcuteries and heart and testicle paste stuff. Sounds great. All right, big show planned for you next week. It's the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, you know we got embedded correspondence. And what are we adding to the embedded correspondence this month? A special guest appearance by Sam the Cooking Guy. He'll be sitting in. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.